بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى يوم الدين. Before we begin tonight's speech, I would like to present a law of fasting, and that is the law or the rules according that applies to a traveler, somebody that is traveling during the month of Ramadan. The first question is that can somebody travel during the month of Ramadan? Is it allowed? And the answer is yes, they can travel, but traveling to escape fasting is makruh, is discouraged, for somebody to run away from fasting. Then they ask, what about if somebody wants to travel to, let's say, San Diego from here, and they leave around 11 o'clock in the morning? Could they still fast? The answer is that the time period, the deadline for somebody for their fast to be accepted is noon time, adhan al-dhuhr, the time of Salat al-Dhuhr. That's the time that they would have to stay in their city. After Salat al-Dhuhr, they can travel to San Diego and they can have iftar there, if they're invited, say, for iftar there. And what about coming back? Let's say they stay in San Diego and they need to come back. They stay there at nighttime, they're invited, and they get tired, they get sleepy, and they decide to stay there. They would have to come back to their city, to this area, before Salat al-Dhuhr for them to fast. They don't have to. They can be a musafir and traveler, but they would need to stay, be able to come to their city before Salat al-Dhuhr for them to make the niyyat and intention of fasting. Some person asked me when I was here 2 years ago, what about a plane? And if a plane is coming to our city, say it's coming to John Wayne Airport or LAX, is it sufficient that that plane is in the LA area in air before Salat al-Dhuhr, before the noon, the Islamic noon, or does it have to land? And I thought about it, I didn't know the answer. So I asked one of my teachers who knows the opinion of one of the primary scholars that people follow here, and he said that the plane has to land, has to actually be touch the ground before Salat al-Dhuhr. It means that even if it's in the air and it's, they do an approach before they land, and it takes a long time for them to land, but they would have to touch down before Salat al-Dhuhr for our airplane. And also taking off would be the same way. They would have to be in the city before. They would have to leave after Salat al-Dhuhr, and the plane would not be able to take off before. If you have any questions about this, you can ask me or some of the brothers here. Inshallah, afterwards we can answer some of the questions that are about traveling and fasting. Please recite a salawat. It is the month of Ramadan. It is the month that in the khutbah, the sermon that the Prophet gave before the month of Ramadan, he said that this month is a month that your sleep is worship, right? It is the month of Diyafatullah. You are guests of Allah. And it is a month where your actions are accepted and your du'as are accepted. Du'a'ukum fihi mustajabun. One of the most important actions that we do in the month of Ramadan is du'a, praying. And it is an action that is very important, and an action that in it has many things, even though it just seems like we're asking Allah for something, but inside du'a, there are many things that go through our heart, many lessons that we learn from du'a. the fact that we are allowed to do dua itself is a great blessing. And when you look at Sahifa Sajjadiyah, Sermon 40, Dua 44 is about entering the month of Ramadan. Dua 45 is about exiting the month of Ramadan. And Dua 45, it says that Allah has given us 3 gifts. One of them is dua, one of them is repentance, right? And the other is shukr. These 3 things. To be grateful of Allah. That if anybody else had given us these, we would thank them. If anybody else were to guide us towards these things, we would thank them. So dua is a gift that Allah gave us, right? And many times people think that dua just happens whenever we want it to happen. Dua happens whenever I decide to open the mafati. Actually, dua happens when Allah gives you the permission to do dua. When you are doing dua, be happy. Know that Allah has invited you. You're invited to talk to Him, right? We say in some of the countries in the Middle East, when we go to ziyarat, let's say we go to the ziyarat of Imam Rida alayhi salam, and we say that Imam Rida alayhi salam has called us. Not that we went to his ziyarat, he has invited us. Dua is the same way. Allah has invited you to hear you. Allah has invited you to accept your prayer. And this is what we just read in Dua Iftitah, right? We just read, Allahumma adhinta li fi du'aik. You gave me permission to do your dua. You allowed me to do your prayer. So dua is something that it comes from Allah. He wants to talk to us. So this is very important for us to realize that sometimes we might face a difficulty, a problem, and then we start doing dua. Well, the first thing is that Allah has invited you to talk to Him. He doesn't invite everybody. There are some people that the entire year goes by, they don't even do one dua, right? But look at this month. Look at the long du'as. Now there's du'as that are al-ma'thur. They come from the Quran or the narrations. Or there's dua that we just do with our hearts and hands, with our own tongues. Both of these types of du'as are gifts. These are permissions from Allah to speak to Him. In this month we do very long du'as, and these are all gifts that Allah has been giving you, brothers and sisters, so that He can hear your voice. He likes to hear you talk to Him. In one of the poetries and the commentary of this poetry, there's a story. I don't know how exact this story is, but a person was doing dua, and for something, maybe somebody was sick, they kept doing dua and prayer for this, and shaitan comes to them and him and says, you're not getting what you did dua for. You should stop it. You're not going to get it. If it's going to be answered, it'll be answered the first time. Why are you doing so much dua? 2 times, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times. You've been doing dua for a long time. Give up. Basically, in this story, he sees Prophet Khidr Nabi. And Prophet Khidr tells him the fact that Allah has allowed you to do dua, He has invited you to speak to Him. As if half of the way or most of the way is done already. Once we start to do dua, we have already gone maybe around 90% of the path. Because Allah has invited us, and because He has invited us to talk to Him, He will answer our prayers. So this is how, brothers and sisters, we should see dua. Dua is a gift that Allah is giving us a chance to speak to Him. And it's something that not everybody has, right? And speaking to Allah, when you want to have a meeting with somebody important, say a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, how long would it take for you to reserve such an appointment? A very long time, maybe if it was even possible. There's the secretaries, people to have to set up an appointment 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month from now, and when you would visit him or her, you would see them just maybe chatting and talk and emailing at the same time. They're not even listening to you. But Allah which is the creator of the universe, as long as is right when we open our hands and we come to contact Him, we can immediately talk to Him. There's no appointments, there's no reservations. Anytime, even right now when you're listening to me speak, you can be doing dua right now. any time. It's always open for you, especially in the month of Ramadan. So this is a great blessing that this month is the month of dua, and it is something that we should know that Allah has invited us to talk to Him. Please give a salawat. Now, what is dua? Dua basically means to ask for something. Just like you ask somebody for, can you help me with money? Can you help me with a task that I need help with? Dua just means to ask for something, either material or not material. But the essence and core of dua is ibadat, is worship. In the narrations it says, ad-du'a mukhul ibadah. Dua is the core of ibadat. It is the core and center of worship. Or in the Quran it says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وقال ربكم أدعوني أستجب لكم إن الذين يستكبرون عن عبادتي سيدخلهم جهنم داخرين. Allah says, call on me and I'll answer you. And those that are arrogant, those that don't want to call me, right? They're too arrogant. They have istikbar of my ibadat. So first it says dua, ud'uni, astajib lakum. Then the Quran says ibadati. So the Quran is referring to dua as a ibadat, as an act of worship. Some say, how is this an act of worship when you're just asking? Is it worshiping somebody? I'm asking, help me, God. Is this worship? True, when it comes to our mouths, it just seems like an act of just asking. But what is the core when you're asking somebody, when you're asking Allah for something? It means that you're acknowledging the fact that you are weak. You're acknowledging the fact in terms of Allah. You are weak, you are powerless, and you need Allah. You need a power to come and help you. You need the ultimate source of power to come and help you. So the core of dua is ibadat, meaning that I am verifying and I'm acknowledging the fact that I can't do anything, that I need your help, and if you don't help me, it won't happen. This is basically what Imam Ali alayhi salam says in his munajat. Ilahi anta al-khaliqu wa ana al-makhluq. You are my creator and I am your creation. This is the core of dua. This is what it means, ubudiyat, to be an abd, to be a servant. You are my creator, I am your creation. وَأَنْتَ الْمَالِكُ وَأَنَا الْمَمْلُوكُ. You are the owner and I am being owned. This is the essence of dua. وَأَنْتَ الرَّبُّ وَأَنَا الْعَبْدُ. You are the Lord and I am the servant. وَأَنْتَ الْقَوِيُّ وَأَنَا الضَّعِيفُ. You are strong, you are power, and I am weak. So when you're asking for something from Allah, in essence, you're going back to what you're created for, and that is to be an abd of God, a servant of God. You're being against those that are arrogant and they don't want to be a servant of God. Because doing salat, and some say salat comes from dua itself, the term. Doing sujood and praying is something that some people have a problem with. A group of people came to the Prophet and they said, I accept Islam, but I can't accept the sujood. I can't go on the dirt. It's too difficult for me. Why? Because they were arrogant. In salat itself, it says, no, you don't be arrogant. The essence of salat is be humble, be a slave, you're a servant. Put your forehead down on the dirt, right? So the essence of dua, whenever we're doing dua, actually we are becoming an abd, and we're acknowledging the fact that we are a servant of Allah. So this is the core meaning when we say ad-du'a mukhul ibadah, means or that ibadat and worship, the core of it is asking and being powerless and having no other hope with anybody else but God. So this is one of the reasons why maybe dua is emphasized so much. Maybe this is one of the reasons why Allah delays in answering our du'as. Because He is taking us to the core. He's taking us to the goal of our creation, which is to become a servant. Every day we're praying for this thing. Every day we're praying, But every day, it's true, it's not becoming answered, this dua, but every day you are reaching perfection. You're acknowledging the fact that you're a slave. You're acknowledging the fact that you're a servant of Allah. You're acknowledging the fact that you're weak compared to Allah. Not to the creation, because that's a different debate. But when it comes to Allah, we are powerless. Dua is so important that in the Quran, it says, قُلْ مَا يَعْبَأُ بِكُمْ رَبِّي لَوْلَا دُعَاكُمْ. If it wasn't for your dua, Allah would not care for you, the Quran says. Allah cares for you because of your dua. قُلْ مَا يَعْبَأُ بِكُمْ رَبِّي لَوْلَا دُعَاءُكُمْ. If it wasn't for your dua, He would not care for you. If it wasn't for your prayer. Because this prayer and this dua makes you an abd. And those that reject being an abd of Allah, that ayah that I mentioned, they will be in the hell humiliated. In this verse, who does it apply to? Those that are arrogant in dua. Istikbar dua. Who does it refer to? Does it refer to somebody that forgets to do dua? For example, somebody he's sick and they have a headache and they have a little pill. And they forget to say Bismillah. They forget to pray to Allah to help them become better. They just have a pill and they forget that Allah is actually going to cure them. They think that this pill is going to cure their headache. Does it refer to them? Even though this is a bad act, it does not refer to them, those that are going to hell or have istikbar of dua, those that are arrogant in dua. If somebody, and this happens, they have ghiflat, they neglect, they forget that whatever I'm going to do, I need to have help. I need to ask for Allah for help. These people, it's called ghiflat. They forget to ask Allah. And there's no barakat. If you don't ask Allah, there's no barakat. Just like when you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, there's no barakat in what we do. Everything we do, even something small, we have to remember to do dua for that. Some of the urafa, they reach such a stage that even when they would take a breath from Allah, they would do dua. Because they knew that if Allah did not help them breathe, inhale and exhale, right? Allah would not help them, they could not breathe. These are very high levels of spirituality, but still, whatever we do, brothers and sisters, if we don't remember this fact that everything is being administered by Allah, He has all the power. And the fact that I'm standing here right now and speaking, this is all due from the grace of Allah, His fadl. And if I want to ever do anything, either if it's small, either if it's important, I need to ask Allah first. I need to get His help. Right? I need to have my hope only be Him. In some of our du'as, it says, Allahumma inni astaghfiruka astaghfiru raja. I do istighfar of istighfar raja. I have hope in others than Allah. I do istighfar tawakkul. My tawakkul and reliance on Allah is not strong. It's not solid. I have allowed shirk and polytheism. My faith and my hope is in others but Allah. Therefore, it's not complete. My tawakkul, my reliance in Allah is not complete. My hope is not complete. If we don't reach these, then we have to do istighfar. We have to, some of the nights that we are doing istighfar, we do istighfar for not asking Allah for everything that we did. That is one level. That your belief in Allah is a very fresh and continuous belief, that everything you do in your life that you need help in, because our existence is existence that needs help, we ask Allah for help. This is a very fresh and continuous belief and connection compared to those that forget Allah. Remember Him once a year. The second stage of somebody that forgets dua is somebody that, because of their worldview or their belief, they might think that God does not have an effect in this world. Na'udhu billah. That the effects in this world, the way that this world is ran, is by the normal methods. You need to have medication, you'll become good. If you need a job, you apply. You get a job and then you get a salary, you'll have money. You don't need God, right? Some people think like this. Their worldview is not complete yet, right? Their worldview doesn't incorporate God. They think that everything happens naturally and normally. This is the second stage of somebody that forgets to pray for Allah, or this is the stage of somebody that thinks that they don't need Allah. Well, we tell these people that you still have not understood Allah. You haven't understood the relationship between God, His creation, and His creation. You think that the creation is independent, that they do not need Allah after they're created. But in fact, Allah is wajibul wujud, and we are mumkinul wujud. God's existence is in such a way that second by second, we depend on His existence, right? And if we don't, it's as if, imagine, you think of you make say something like a chair in your head. As long as you're remembering that chair, it exists in your head. But once that chair, you stop thinking about it, 1 second it disappears. Our existence is in such a way that second by second it needs to be renewed by the existence of Allah. Therefore, everything we do, it depends on Allah. This is what Allah means. Ghaniyyun mutlaq. He has no need. We have a need. When we pray to Allah, He does not have any need. And that is a scary fact. Is that we're praying to somebody and we're worshiping somebody that does not need us. He doesn't need your worship. But He loves for you to reach perfection. Right? So this is the second stage, is that a person's worldview, and you see this in society, that people have they have excluded God from their life. They think that everything is in their own hands. And this is very dangerous, and they have still not come to know God. And that's why I encourage so much to study about Tawheed and the oneness of God, and to ask Allah to give us ma'rifatullah, understanding of Allah. Give us the fact that, the understanding that we realize that everything we're doing comes from Allah. Every little, so even if somebody pokes me here, Allah has somehow allowed it. They say that Ayatollah Qazi Tabatabai, one of the great arifs, was teaching Tawheed Af'ali. What is Tawheed Af'ali? That means that every fi'l and every action comes from Allah. They were studying, and then a huge noise comes. The roof was coming down on the students. Usually some of the schools, they didn't have a lot of money for them to be properly built. So this school, the floor starts crumbling and falls. All the students run away immediately. In such a way that they left their teacher. They ran outside, and actually they found out that it was the room next door. It wasn't their room, that it was falling concrete and bricks were falling on their head. And Ayatollah Qazi Tabatai was laughing. They felt very embarrassed that they didn't even help their teacher out. He says that students of Tawheed Af'ali, come back to class. Stop being afraid. Because if you truly believe and have hope in Allah, you don't have fear. Right? Khawf, fear, and grief. These are all signs. And I'm not saying that I'm somebody that doesn't have fear or doesn't have grief. No. I say this to encourage myself. But if somebody comes and really believes in Allah and Tawheed Af'ali, that every action happens from Allah, he won't have fear, he won't have grief, right? And this is one of the reasons why some people in society, we see they leave dua because they don't understand how Tawheed works. The third group, which is the worst, and this is who the ayah is referring to, is a group of people that they have arrogance and they do not want to ask Allah. They say that I'm fine how I am, I'm good, I don't need your help. I'll make money myself. If I get sick, I'll see the best doctor. I don't need God in my life. And this is the people of Jahannam talking. These are the people of the fire, how the Quran says. And it says that they will enter the fire in humiliation. Because in the day of judgment, Allah, we say in Salat, Maliki Yawmiddin, He is the owner of the world. There he'll realize who Maliki Yawmiddin is. Today, it is a test. Allah is giving them a chance. But in that day, the day of judgment, they will see Maliki Yawmiddin. They will see who they were arrogant towards. وَلَهُ أَسْلَمَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ طَوْعًا وَكَرْهًا وَإِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُونَ. Everything in this world submits to Allah. Everything in the heavens and earth is submitting to Allah. And then it says, وَإِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُونَ. Don't they know that they'll come back to Allah? Don't they know, it's maybe a question, that everything will submit to Allah either with free will, either with their own choice or they're compelled. And don't they know that on the day of judgment, they will be resurrected, they will come back to Allah, as if the Quran is saying to them, on the day of judgment, don't they know they will see that there they will be forced to bow down to Allah. There they'll be forced to be a slave. But instead of choosing to be a slave of Allah and getting a very high status, they will be a slave of the fire. Imam Ali alayhi salam was the exact opposite. He wasn't arrogant when it came to Allah. He says, Ilahi kafa bi izzan an akuna laka abdan. It's sufficient for me an honor that I am your servant. This is enough. This is all the honor in the world that I need, is that I am a servant of Allah. وَكَفَى بِي فَخْرًا أَن تَكُونَ لِي رَبًّا. And it's enough glory and pride for me that you are my Rabb. We can't have any more honor, glory, or pride than that we are a servant of Allah and He is our Lord. This is our source of pride. Not those that are pride by themselves or they are arrogant. Please recite a salawat. The du'as we do, some of them are just normal talking to Allah, and this is encouraged. We can talk to Allah. You can not even talk with your mouth, just with your heart. You can ask. The other kind of type of classification of du'a are du'as that are al-ma'thur. What's a du'a al-ma'thur? It means a du'a that comes from a narration, a du'a that it comes from revelation. Like the du'as that are in the Quran. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana. That's a du'a al-ma'thur. It comes from the Quran. It's not our own words. It's a du'a from the Quran. Du'a Abu Hamza, du'a Joshan Kabir, du'a Iftitah. These are all du'a al-ma'thur. These are du'as that come from the Ahlul Bayt. Some say, why do I need to read these du'as? I can talk to Allah myself. I know how to talk to Him. He created me. I know how to talk to Him. See, brothers and sisters, when we read a dua that's from the Quran or a dua that is from the Imam, in it there are many lessons. One is that the Imams know how to talk to Allah. They know how to speak to God. They know that when you want to speak to Allah, you have to speak to Him in a humble way. They know that when you want to speak to Allah, you have to praise Him first. Don't we do this in our dua in Surah Al-Fatiha? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. We first praise Allah, Maliki Yawmiddin. Then we do our dua. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Guide me. So first we praise, and this is from the du'as of the Imams. We're learning how to talk to Allah. Because many times the way we can end up talking to Allah is in a way that we can end up being ungrateful. God, you didn't give me this, you didn't give me this, give me right? But the Imams talk to them in a very grateful manner. The Imams talk to Allah in a very humble manner. And you saw in the dua, Iftitah, it says, Jahil, right? Irham abdika jahil. Forgive your ignorant slave. The Imam is speaking. So they teach us things and the manners and the way to talk to Allah, because these are divine guides. Another thing that we learn in the du'as, because see the narrations, when somebody comes to the Prophet or the Imams and they ask a question, the Prophet and the Imams would speak to them according to their own comprehension and understanding. They wouldn't speak higher, so they would mix things up, so they would be misguided. But when it comes to dua, the Imam is speaking to God. He doesn't need to be able to speak to people to their comprehension. Therefore, in du'as, you see philosophies, you see beliefs that are very, very high that you might not see in other narrations. You bring out, it has lessons. That's, for example, in Du'a Kumail, you see, you ask Allah to forgive my sins that caused this, that caused this, that caused this. It is a lesson, each one of these. Sins that block my du'a, sins that bring, say, bala upon me, for example. So in the du'as, there are many lessons for us to learn. And another fact that some people ask, in that narration, إِنَّ مَعَاشِرَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ أُمِرْنَا أَن نُكَلِّمَ النَّاسَ عَلَى قَدْرِ عُقُولِهِمْ. The prophets are commanded to speak upon the comprehension of the people. But the du'as, because it is from the Prophet to Allah or from Imam Ali to Allah, this limit doesn't exist. One of the manners in the du'as that we learn from the manners that we learn from the du'as that we have, some of our ulama have compiled these. This book that I recommend your brothers and sisters to read, Al-Muraqibat, which is from Mirza Tabrizi, Ayatollah Mirza Tabrizi, one of the teachers of Imam Khomeini. He was such a great person that once they say that Imam Khomeini, he came home and his ammameh was dirtied. There was dirt on his ammameh. And his wife or his family, they knew that usually the turban of Imam Khomeini is clean. They asked him, what happened? Why is your ammameh have dirt on it? And he said that I visited my teacher's grave, Ayatollah Mirza Tabrizi. And he cleaned with his ammameh, he cleaned his grave of his teacher. This is who Mirza Tabrizi was. Maliki Tabrizi, apologize. Ayatollah Maliki Tabrizi was a person, they say in Salat al-Dhuhr, he did ghusl and itr, he had itr, and he did Allahu Akbar, Takbiratul Ihram, and he passed away. He died. In this book, Al-Muraqibat, and when you read it, you can see the sincerity that this Arif had. He has different manners. He says, before you do dua, do these things. One of those things that Ayatollah Maliki Tabrizi says is to first do a good deed before you do dua. Don't just come and do dua. And there's narrations from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. He used to do a good deed, give charity before he did dua. So before you come tomorrow night to do dua, maybe do a good deed. Maybe be kind to your parents. Do something nice for them, to your friends. Give some charity, something nice, so that Allah will answer your dua. This is some of the manners of du'as. Another thing in this that he mentions is, besides it's having this belief of being needy, of faqr, of saying that I don't rely on my own acts of worship. I don't rely on myself. That my acts, I don't know if Allah accepts my fast or my prayer. Don't come to dua tomorrow night in the dua in a way that you think that, oh, I have fasted, I have prayed, this is the 23rd, I have observed 22 days, I'm proud. Because this happens. Ujb happens to us, right? As my teacher, Ayatollah Mushtahidi, used to say, God gives us the gift of Salatul Layl and we pray it, sometimes it brings us ujb, that we get content with ourselves. And we say, we breathe, yes, I do Salatul Layl, like, you get happy. Not to come this way towards dua, to come dhalil, broken. There's a narration that's very interesting. What does this narration say? It says that, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ مَا مِنْ النَّاسِ أَحَدٌ يَدْخُلُ الْجَنَّةَ بِعَمَلِهِ. Nobody will enter heaven because of his actions. Just because of their actions, you will not enter heaven. It's because of the mercy of Allah that you enter heaven. Not because of his adl or justice of Allah, because of his fadl and his virtue and his favor towards you. Because if we look at all the things we were supposed to do and all the things we didn't do, it's worthless, our actions. When we compare our actions to Mizanul A'mal, who is Imam Ali alayhi salam, the person that the actions are weighed against, Our actions are nothing. So nobody will enter the heaven because of their actions. They will enter because of the mercy of Allah. So with this ideology come to dua, that I'm telling myself, my prayer is not accepted. My fast is not accepted. I don't have anything. Unless Allah has mercy on me. If He has mercy, then I have everything. Another thing that a narration we read in Uddatu Da'i, and this is another book that has the manners of du'as. It says this, Ad-du'a ma'al bir kal-malh ma'at ta'am. What does this narration mean? It means that if a person is good, if a person has taqwa, doesn't sin, then doing dua for them is like putting salt on food. How much salt do you need on food? On normal food, you don't need too much salt. Just put a little bit of salt, it'll taste good. A person that doesn't sin, they don't need much dua. The main thing that a person that wants to do dua should be concerned with is their own actions, becoming good. If they become good, Allah will answer their dua very fast. So this is something else that we learn from the manners of dua, is to become good. Once you become good, Allah will hear your dua. The second thing that we learned, that was the first category, was about why we should do dua al-ma'thur, why we should read the du'as of the imams. So first we said that it's because there's lessons in it. It's because the imams know how to talk to Allah, and we are learning this from them. Look at how much before the du'as happen, how much thana and praise of Allah there is first. Do we do that by ourselves? No. Right? Look at what is being asked, what we are asking Allah in the du'as. A lot of those things we wouldn't even know. We learn it from al-du'a al-mathur. We learn it from the du'as of the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt. And the second thing is we're following the Ahlul Bayt by doing their du'as. We're doing ta'assi to them. We're following our guides because they're guides, because a guide, in order for somebody to be a guide, is not somebody just to know the path. It's somebody that has walked and reached where they're supposed to be, and they can guide you. If somebody hasn't done something and reached a place and says, go towards that mountain. Have you climbed it yet? He says, no, but just go. It won't be effective. When somebody reaches the mountain and says, come this way, that is a true guide. The Ahlul Bayt have reached that maximum level that a human being has reached. Therefore, they are a true guide. They have reached it. So once you do ta'assi to them, you are following them. You are following the same person has already reached the peak of that mountain. Some ask, what about the translation of the dua? Can I just read those? I don't want to read the Arabic. It's very good to understand the du'as and to be able to know what you're saying, of course. But if we read the translation only, that's not the speech of the Quran and that's not the speech of the Ahlul Bayt. That's the speech of the translator. And mashallah, a lot of times the translation is wrong. Or it's weak, right? And in English, I'm saying. Some of the translations are sometimes weak. So when you just read the dua in English, a lot of times that's the word of the translator. That's not the word of Imam Ali. The word of Imam Ali is in Arabic, right? That itself has an effect. So the best stage is to read the Arabic and also at the same time read the meaning. And if you do this, the next month of Ramadan, you'll be this much closer to Arabic and understanding what you're reading. Because you've looked up these words, you've looked up what this means, and the next time you can enjoy and have ladhat, enjoy the dua more. Ayatollah Bahjat says, because he loved dua and salat, he says if the kings knew how much ladhat and enjoyment there is in dua, they would rather leave their kingdom and leave everything they have and they would do dua. This is how great of a feeling just that dua itself has. Especially when somebody falls in love with Allah, has ishq with Allah. Some are, as we said, are very arrogant when it comes to dua, right? One of the teachers of the Hawza, his name was Ayatollah Mirza Muhammad Hussein Asfahani Kompani. He was a person that his dad was a billionaire, and that he even made a train station, they say, a railway just for his son. He is one of the three teachers of Islamic legal theory that Islamic legal theory today, a lot of it goes back to. He lived around 50 years ago. One is Marhum al-Na'ini, one is Marhum al-Kompani, or Mirza Muhammad Hussein Isfahani, or the other is Aghazia Araqi. These three teachers, who Ayatollah Khoui studied with all three of them, are great in Usul al-Fiqh and Islamic legal theory. This Nihayatul Diraya of Marhum Isfahani is a book that is sometimes too difficult to even taught today. It's very difficult. He says, and I'm talking about being arrogant and how some do not want to do sujood or do prostrate towards Allah. He says that when I was a child, my dad was very rich. And that towards the end of his life, they see that he's picking up potatoes and onions on the ground, and he's laughing. And they ask him, why are you laughing? You're picking up these onions and potatoes. He says that, I remember that when I was young, my dad was so rich, I had a tasbih, and each one of them was kind of like jewels, was worth, each one little part was worth something. It broke apart and it fell in the haram. And it was difficult for me to go on the ground and pick each one up. I was like, forget it. I don't need this. I'll buy another one. He said, I worked on myself so much from this arrogance that now I see myself picking up potatoes on the ground because he gave all his wealth to the people of Iraq. This marja taqlid. He gave all his wealth to the people, and that himself, he lived he worked on his arrogance so much, on his, not arrogance here would be ujra, pride, that now potatoes are important for him. So this is something for us brothers and sisters to learn, is to take what we have, not to take it for granted. In life, and when it comes to being arrogant, when it comes to doing dua, come in a humble manner towards Allah, especially tomorrow night. So this is basically about dua. And the last thing I would like to say is, maybe we can do this later on, are things to do dua for. We have material things, we have spiritual things, and dua goes back to the comprehension and understanding of somebody. The higher their ma'rifat and understanding is, the more higher things they'll want from Allah. Those that they have a very small, limited worldview and they only see material things, they only do dua for material things. Those that they want excellence, they want to raise themselves high, they want to be one of the best companions of the 12th Imam, they'll do dua for spiritual things, things that are much more important. So doing dua goes back to our worldview and what's important for us, and the level of ma'rifat and understanding we are. The higher we're at, the more important things we'll do dua for. As I said, one of those most important things we do dua for is guidance, and continual guidance. We said last night, Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim, we say 10 times a day. And that Allah doesn't give us guidance, and if we don't ask for this guidance, we could have su'al aqiba. We could be doomed at the end. To do dua for things that are very, very important. One of those is our guidance. Another thing is for the 12th Imam. To always pray for the 12th Imam. To have that relationship. If Allah gives you, if the 12th Imam comes back, he has given back everything. Our faraj is with the faraj of the 12th Imam. Just even if it wasn't our faraj, just his faraj. Ayatollah Milani says it's important. This great marja said that a Shia talks to his Imam at least a few minutes in the day. Just like we talk to Allah, you can talk to the 12th Imam. They ask, can you meet the 12th Imam? One of the Urafa says, you can meet Allah with your spirit. Why can't you meet with the 12th Imam? So pray for the faraj of the 12th Imam, remembering the 12th Imam. And then most importantly, those things that you do dua for are things that the Imam is going to revolt for. What is he going to revolt for? For justice, for equality, to abolish poverty, to take the burden off the Imam, to help the Imam. A true companion is somebody that helps their Imam. A true companion of Imam Ali was somebody that took some burden off the shoulders of Imam Ali. Not a person that is a companion of the 12th Imam doesn't wait for him to reappear, and then when he reappears, then I'm going to help him. He helps him right now. And his intentions and his du'as are for right now. He does du'a for the goals of the 12th Imam, and he participates and is active in society in a way that he's helping the cause of the 12th Imam. This is the most important duty of the Shia in the occultation. The burden that's on the shoulder of the 12th Imam, to remove the barriers so the Imam can reappear. This is our duty. So the most important dua we have is for the final goal of the Imam, for his reappearance. And of course, his final goal is for people to become an abd of God. The entire purpose of the government of Imam Zaman is that people can reach Allah. If you ever help somebody reach Allah, you have helped with the revolution and the goal of the 12th Imam. So one of the most important things we do dua, we said dua is according to our own ma'rifat and understanding. A person that loves Imam Zaman, his duas will be different. His duas will be for the Imam. His heart will always be with the Imam. A person that is with the 12th Imam, he will pray for others before he prays for himself, because he thinks of others. At-jar thumma ad-dar. Sayyid Fatima salamullah alayha. Imam Hassan saw his mother pray over the entire night, pray and pray. And he noticed that his mom was always praying for this person, that person. She wouldn't pray for herself. And then Sayyid Fatima salamullah alayha. Ad-dar. So ad-jar thumma ad-dar. The neighbors, then my house, then myself. So these are the manners of the people of the Ma'sumin, the infallibles, the complete and perfect people. This is the way they did dua. And this is the way that we, inshallah, need to approach dua as a humble abd. Somebody that has no hope in anybody else. Somebody that is certain that if he asks Allah, Allah will give him. He knows that Allah is administrating everything in this world. That all this, that we see these normal, these natural things are all controlled by Allah and Tawheed Af'ali. For us to purify our hearts and to take lessons, it's very important to remember the musibat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Because all of this is talk, but what purifies our heart and gets us ready for the 12th Imam is remembering the Imam Hussein. Because the remembrance of Imam Hussein is very important during the revolution of Imam Zaman. So the more we love Imam Hussein and cry for Imam Hussein, we'll be connected to the role of the 12th Imam. If I can ask, can you dim the lights, please? Ayatollah Wahid Khorasani, one of the great Maraja, says that there is a a'mal you can do. There's these actions you can do that you can witness Karbala happen. You can see Karbala happen, not just with your eyes, your soul. You can have a mukashafa, a mystical experience, and you can see it. He doesn't say what it is. He doesn't say exactly what that action is. But he says if somebody does this, he will witness Karbala. And he says something interesting though. He says that you will see everything, but the end part of the day of Ashura, you will not be able to see it. And when is that? When Imam Hussein alayhi salam fell off his horse. From then on, he says, even if you do this a'mal, your spirit cannot handle the reality of Ashura. Only the heart of an infallible Imam can handle Ashura, from that part that Imam Hussein fell off his horse. And Imam Zaman in Zira Nahiya, it says that day and night he cries for Imam Hussein. That if tears dry up, he will cry blood for Imam Hussein. And this isn't majaz, this is truth. That he will cry so much that blood will come from his eyes. As-salamu ala man dafanahu ahl al-qura. This is ziyaratun nahiyya that is attributed to the 12th Imam. He said, we say, salam and peace upon you, Imam Hussein, that the villagers came to bury your body. Nobody came to bury your body. Your body was left on the barren sands of Karbala, and villagers felt sorry for you and had to bury you. As-salamu ala al-maqtu' al-watin. Peace upon whose heart was severed, his veins were severed. As-salamu ala al-muhami bala mu'in. Peace upon the defender that had no helper. Nobody helped him anymore. Until every companion became shaheed. His dearest companions, the Bani Hashim, came. He did istinsar. He asked for help. On the day of Ashura, Imam Hussein asked for help many different times. In one of his final istinsar, he sought help. Some say that he heard his child Ali Asghar cry, as if saying, I will help you, Imam Hussein. I will help you, and he did help Imam Hussein. As-salamu ala shayb al-khadib. The gray hairs of Imam Hussein that were dyed with blood. As-salamu ala al-khatt al-tarib. Salam on the cheek that hit the dust of Karbala, the final moments. As-salamu ala al-badan al-salib. The body that was butchered. As-salamu ala al-tha'r al-maghru' bil-qadib. Salam on the front teeth that were beaten with a rod. It is said, brothers and sisters, this is in history, that in the book Tadhakkar al-Khawas, that when they brought the head of Imam Hussein to Ibn Ziyad, there was a sorcerer, there was a fortune teller there that said, take your feet, Ibn Ziyad, and put it on the head of Imam Hussein. Put your feet on the lips of Imam Hussein. This is what that sorcerer, this is what that Kahin, the fortune teller, said. And there it says that Zayd ibn Arqam says, I swear that I have seen the Prophet kiss those same lips, those lips that you're putting your feet on. The Prophet of Islam has kissed the same lips. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم بالدماء الإمام حسين عليه السلام يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله 10 times يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. Make our feet steadfast in your religion, Ya Allah. We ask you, because of the blood, the honor of Imam Hussein, accept our majalis, inshallah. Accept our fasts and our prayers, Ya Allah. Those that have provided the iftar, those that have helped in this majalis in any way, and God has given them this honor of helping in the majalis of the Ahlul Bayt, inshallah. May God give them barakat, and may God forgive their sins and their family's sins, inshallah. Allah, those that are poor, those that need help, those that have grief, those that have problems, resolve their problems because of Imam Hussein, inshallah. Those that, inshallah, those that are sick in our community, those that are sick in the world, give them a speedy recovery. Our family members, our parents, those that have loved ones that have passed away, may Allah give the thawab of this majlis, inshallah, to their souls. And inshallah, forgive their sins and to give them the honor of being with Imam Hussein in the akhirat. Ya Allah, we ask you right now, because the ziyarat of Imam Hussein is something that needs to be du'at for and needs to be signed. Ya Allah, give us the ziyarat of Imam Hussein this year, inshallah. Ya Allah, give us the shafaat of Imam Hussein and the akhirat, inshallah. Ya Allah, make us a companion of the 12th Imam. Ya Allah, let us see our Imam. Let us see the beauty, the Tawusul Ahl al-Jannah, the peacock of the heaven, the most beautiful being, the 12th Imam, Ya Allah, inshallah. Ya Allah, may inshallah hasten his return. May we have an active role in helping in his causes and inshallah in his duties that he has. Ya Allah, may make our du'as be accepted and make us do du'a for those things that are important. Give us the true manners of du'a and make us through our du'a become a true abd of you, a humble and servant abd of you. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.